Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the World Forum for Ethics in Business, we welcome you to the biggest global summit of the year, Changing Paradigms in a Pandemic World, How to Regain Trust. For those of us who have just joined us, the World Forum for Ethics in Business is a public interest foundation registered in Belgium. The mandate of the forum includes all manner of pursuing and establishing the indispensable ethical foundations of business in a globalized world. Today, on the occasion of World Health Day, the World Forum for Ethics in Business has convened leading experts like those that you see on the screen today to put into perspective the current ethical and moral dimensions, as well as the practical implications and consequences of the pandemic on our health, our work, and our life as human beings. My name is Ajay Tejasvi, and I serve as the president of Shri Shri Tattva USA, an Ayurveda-based global health and wellness company. And we're delighted to partner with the World Forum for Ethics in Business at this very important juncture in the fight for global health. In a past life, I've also worked closely with more than 42 governments and multi-stakeholders from civil society, academia, business as well, assisting and supporting reforms for good governance through collaborative leadership. Today, I have the honor of serving as the moderator for this panel entitled The Power of Breath, a Scientific, Business, and Political Perspective. And as such, we've been able to bring together luminaries from these fields. During the course of the session, please feel free to tweet, like, ask your questions on YouTube or Facebook chat channels, as well as use the Zoom chat here to post your questions. Our team will help us select some questions that we can pose to our esteemed panelists. So with that, I'd like to welcome Mr. Joseph Leiden. Joe is a German politician who served as a member of the European Parliament from 1999 until 2019. He's a member of the Social Democratic Party, part of the Party of European Socialists. He's well known for his environmental and foreign affairs activities, as well as his support for a federal Europe. We are eager to learn more about your insights about harnessing the power of breath for success in building political alliances for social reform, Joe. A warm welcome to you. I'd also like to take this opportunity to welcome Professor Fari Satsioglu. Fari, aside from being a really good friend, is also a professor in molecular and cellular biology at the Department of Biosciences at the University of Oslo, as well as a senior scientist at Oslo University Hospital in Norway. His research focuses on basic molecular and cell biology of cancer cells, in particular prostate cancer. Professor Satsioglu has also been interested in the biological and physical effects of lifestyle interventions, such as yoga, yogic breathing, and meditation, and has conducted extensive research in these areas. We look forward to hearing your insights into the scientific paradigms of stress management for health and wellness. From the world of business, we welcome Mr. Vishal Gupta. Vishal is a senior managing director at Accenture and heads Accenture's European Technology Sales and Solutions Organization. He also serves on the company's Global Leadership Council and Technology Executive Committee. In recent years, Vishal has developed a keen interest in mindfulness and mindful leadership, one that taps one's inner ability to be in the present moment and enhances team cohesion, collaboration, and employee engagement. We look forward to learning from your own experience in the corporate sector as well. Welcome, everyone. So, since we're talking about the power of breath in this session, do you know that we breathe approximately 20,000 breaths a day? And every day you breathe in about 2,000 gallons of air, almost enough to fill a normal-sized swimming pool. Interesting, isn't it? So as we begin, shall we harness the power of the breath? Yeah. Many of us have heard heard the expression, take a breath, right? So shall we begin by taking a few deep breaths? Yeah. So I'd like to invite all of us to sit comfortably and easily. Relax your shoulders, relax your neck. Let's take a deep breath in. Hold the breath and breathe out as slowly as possible. Bring yourself to this moment. Take another deep breath in. If you feel comfortable, you may close your eyes. Hold the breath and breathe out slowly and gently. Let's take one more deep breath in. And let go. Let's all come to this present moment. And let's open our eyes if we have our eyes closed. Wonderful. So fully present that we are now, we can make the most of our time together. Over the next few minutes, we'll explore the impact of breath and meditation in the political realm, in the business arena, and in science. So I'd like to invite Joe to get us started from his experience with the power of breath in politics. And how was the breath helpful to you, Joe, as you built alliances, resolved conflicts, brought people together, and solved problems during your decades-long career? Joe?
Yeah, dear Ajay and all of you, happy to serve in this fascinating workshop, The Power of Breath. I met Sri Ravi Shankar the first time years ago in the European Parliament in Brussels. We have been in a meeting room with some 400 people. The air was sticky, and a meeting room where you have controversial political fights. And Sri came in and he made what we just made before. He sat down and he said, take a deep breath in, hold the breath, breathe out, and that 3 times. And I couldn't believe it. After this 3 times of 400 people breathing, there was a little wind in the room. It was a fresh breeze in a way. And the lights have been shining brighter. And somehow everybody was looking on everybody, and you could feel that there was a positive atmosphere in the room. And we are in the European Parliament from far right to far left, the whole political spectrum. And we had such a productive, positive debate later on with him about many topics. And I thought, my God, breathing is really a power that should be used in public life and political life. And I have a dream that the Secretary General of the United Nations is opening the General Assembly with a breathing session, so that all the 200 nations and their representatives start with breathing, or that on the G20 summit, they do it on summits. Because as I know, politicians are full, their heads are full of thoughts, of interests, of conflicts, and very often they are blocked. And I would say if they would start breathing, discovering that we are equal, everybody breathes in the same way because we have the same DNA. That would help a lot to come down, to disarm, and to get more constructive on what has to be discussed and resolved. And I saw that Art of Living is using breathing technique in prisons. And in the main New York prison, other prisons in Berlin, a lot of success. You think people are criminal, but on the other end, people are as well, let's say, people, and they are able to clear their minds. And I have seen the schools of Sri Ravi Shankar, different schools where breathing techniques is used. And these pupils are totally different of pupils you could see in our schools over here. So I think breathing is a technique that should be used in politics, in public life, as I mentioned, in schools, in administrations. And there's a little bit of dream that the United Nations General Assembly is starting with a breathing session like you did, Ajay. But one can have a dream. It starts with an idea, and if the idea gets powerful, it will be realized. Thanks.
That's beautiful, Joe. Thank you so much. And that's a real leadership lesson right there. Being open to new ideas needs you to be able to clear your mind of already existing ideas and the thoughts that exist within. And that's a very beautiful dream as well, Joe. I think one that all of us can together make a reality. Thank you for sharing. Vishal, please walk us through how you've seen breathing work and make a difference for entrepreneurs, for business professionals, perhaps at the 30,000-foot level as well.
Thanks, Ajay. So, firstly, let me thank you, Ajay, and the rest of the team for bringing us together and this amazing discussion. So, let me just take a step back and just share with you what's been happening in the world of business. The pandemic has actually thrown, in a way, the world of business in a big kind of topsy-turvy change, right? So, and in Accenture, we often say that we are going through a phase of compressed transformation. Many of our industries, if you look at automotive, if you look at retail, if you look at healthcare, they are going through a change which has never been seen before. It's a once in a generation type of a change. And what this is leading to is a huge amount of challenge for the employees of these companies. And if you think about it, employees are the number one asset of any of these companies. There are obviously thousands of employees who have either lost jobs or have moved to short-term contracts. Many of them have had to reskill, change their roles, and really work in a completely new way. This is further compounded by the work from home, which all of us have been kind of imposed. It has been imposed on us for the last year plus, where the boundaries between work and your personal life are blurring. You don't ever see your colleagues. You stay pretty much on video and in front of your laptop for 14, 16 hours a day. Now, this leads into a very toxic situation where employees largely feel exhausted, tired, feelings of depression, sadness, anxiousness, so on and so forth. Most companies, including Accenture, have realized that this is the phase when mental wellness and well-being of our people is our number one priority. And to make it better for them, we launched a number of programs, where breath is a central part of it. How do we kind of bring people into the present moment by using breath, as a tool? People have had no tool to get out of it. So breath becomes a very important tool, using breathing exercises, using meditations, using yoga to really bring the mind to the present and create that feeling of not only well-being, but also connectedness to the larger community of other employees or your clients or your partners that we work with, and make you feel that we are all in this together and we will get through this together. So over the last year and a half, I think, the mental well-being and with breathing being a central tool, I think of getting through this difficult challenge and the pandemic phase that we are going through has been absolutely critical for businesses. And I see a lot of leading companies, Google has been a great example of that. Of course, Accenture has been doing a lot of work in that. So a lot of leading companies are now really adopting this as one of the key things that they encourage their employees to participate in on a regular basis. Back to you, Ajay, with that.
Thanks for that insight, Vishal. It's true, and this is a very real challenge which has been further compounded by the onset of the pandemic. Even before the pandemic, almost 87% of workers had reported being emotionally disconnected from their workplaces. And as you know, when you're not connected to a cause, you're not as productive as you can be. So really, it's very encouraging to hear about your own experience with use of the breath and awareness and meditation techniques that can help provide that much needed solace, perhaps, to individuals so that they can be at their best in the workplace as well. Thank you, Vishal. And we'll go a little bit more in this as we proceed. I'd like to go to Fari now and request his insights as a researcher, as a scientist, on how has he seen this really impact individuals, and where does he what are his insights on this? Fari, over to you.
Thank you, Ajay. First of all, for the kind invitation, and greetings, everybody. I think from a scientific perspective, we can consider two aspects of our breath that becomes very important for us. First, from a physiological perspective, of course, breath is life. We cannot be without it. It's the first act and the last act of our lives. Yet we do not pay enough attention to it. There are tens of trillions of cells in our body, and they all need the oxygen that we get in each breath. As you reminded us, Ajay, we breathe in and out 20,000 times a day and enjoying about 10,000 liters of air. On the other hand, what we usually do not recognize is that breathing and the lungs are one of the 5 major ways of eliminating impurities from our body. The others being the digestive tract, the liver, the kidneys, and the skin. This is why, for example, if someone has ingested some alcohol, we will immediately smell it in their breath, as it's a toxin the body needs to get rid of. We now know that more than 3,000 substances can be detected in our outgoing breath. Yet, if you're not trained well, an average person may be using only 30–40% of his or her lung capacity. Therefore, this is something critical to consider. It's a big issue for our physiology in terms of getting enough oxygen and also at the same time efficiently remove the waste products. If this process is not efficient, of course, it will eventually give rise to disease states. And conversely, if we can improve our breathing, then we can improve our whole physiology. And there's significant research supporting this possibility, that through breathing exercises, we can positively impact health and wellness, as Vishal was pointing to. The second aspect of the breath that we should consider is that it functions as a link between our body and our psyche, our emotions, our inner realm. We all experience this, of course, that our breathing is different in different psychological states. For example, when we are stressed, such as in an exam, we breathe shallow and fast. When we are relaxed, such as when we are strolling on the seaside one early summer morning, we breathe in and out deep and slowly. So our breathing is directly linked to our mental state. I'd like to briefly share my screen and show you a couple of slides from a study on this, because I think it's important. And this is a study that was done in Belgium several years ago. What the researchers done was that they did 2 experiments. In the first experiment, they asked the subjects to bring in different emotions in their being. And then they measured the different breathing patterns that they may have. So joy, anger, fear, and sadness. They found that for each of these emotions, there was a different pattern of breath. Then they did another experiment. They made the subjects to breathe with the different patterns that they found in this experiment. And they asked how they felt. And lo and behold, the breathing pattern that was associated with joy now produced joy. and anger, produced anger, and so forth. So what this suggests is that by changing our breathing pattern, we can influence our mental state. In fact, there are a lot of studies on breathing exercises. I just looked this morning. There's more than 10,000 studies on breathing exercises in general, on traditional pranayama breathing exercises, about 350 of them. And the studies show that there is significant positive effects on different parameters of health and wellness. For example, anxiety and depression. Ajay, as you pointed out, it's a very big issue, mental health problems. These studies on a particular type of breathing exercise called the Sudarshan Kriya Yoga, a set of breathing exercises, they decrease the levels of anxiety, depression, stress in healthy people in the population as well as in patients. These had significant effects on, for example, post-traumatic stress disorder in veterans. There are some very interesting studies in the US on that. There are some physiological effects and also psychological effects as well. So I think the body of knowledge with this understanding suggests that breath is that link that, if used properly, can impact our health and wellness in a major way. Back to you, Ajay.
Thank you for that very important insight, Fari. And as you, Joe, and Vishal mentioned as well, the breath is a great equalizer, isn't it? I mean, we all breathe, and very often we breathe the same air that when we're in a room. And even the air that is around this planet is completely recycled as well. So it's nice to be able to harness the power of the breath. Since this segment, this session itself is about the power of the breath, shall we actually harness the power of the breath using a breathing technique? It's called the bellows breath. I also like to refer to it as your alternative to caffeine or the healthier alternative to caffeine. It makes full use of your lung capacity as a bellows. And it's a very simple technique. You just breathe in and out. And the way you would do it is you would sit with your spine erect. You keep your fists loosely clenched by your shoulders. And when I say breathe in, you raise your hands up, open your hands like an open flower. And then when you bring it down, you close it. So what we'll do with this segment, actually, we'll do a few rounds of this breath. And then we'll do a short awareness practice just to see or experience the power of the breath in our own lives. Yeah? We all thought, as we were discussing what would be the best way for us to demonstrate and share. Of course, sharing our experiences is one way, but we also thought it might be useful to have an actual demonstration where we brought everybody who's watching with us today, who's participating, to the space of what we're talking about. And what better way to do that than through actually experiencing the power of breath? Yeah? So let's do this. Let's sit with our spine erect. Sit comfortably and easily. Relax your shoulders. If you're wearing glasses or something tight, you can take it off for just a moment. Let's bring our fists loosely clenched by our shoulders. Let's keep a gentle smile on our face. And we can do this with our eyes open or closed as you feel comfortable. Let's take a deep breath in and breathe out. One more deep breath in and let go. Together, breathe in and take your hands up. Breathe out, down. And we'll do this a little bit quicker, yeah? Breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. Relax, relax. Let's place our palms on our thighs or our laps, facing the sky. Take a normal deep breath in and breathe out. Observe any sensations in your body. You may be feeling an increase in the circulation of blood. Let's do it another time. Fists loosely clenched by our shoulders. Let's take a transition breath in and breathe out. Together, breathe in, out, up, down, up, down. And relax. Keep your palms on your thighs or laps, facing the sky. Let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath in and relax. Let go. Observe any sensations in your body. We'll do this one last time. Bring your fists loosely clenched by your shoulders. Take a transition breath in and breathe out. Together, breathe in, out, out, up, down, up, down. Continue. Relax. Keep your palms on your thighs facing the sky. And just observe the sensations in your own body. Observe the breath. You may close your eyes if you wish. Just observe the sensations in your own body. Take a deep breath in and breathe out. One more deep breath in. And as you breathe out, relax your shoulders, relax your back, relax your neck. Become aware of all the noises in the environment around you. Whatever those sounds are, sounds of birds chirping in the trees, the sound of traffic, of children playing or people speaking. Become aware of all the noises all around you. Breathe in and let go. As you breathe out, you are at ease with all the noises in the surroundings. Relax. Become aware of your body. This body is a precious instrument, a precious gift to you from nature, from God. Honor your body deeply. breathe in. And as you breathe out, relax your whole body. Become aware of your breath. Incoming breath energizes the body, and outgoing breath relaxes the body. Become aware of this phenomenon as you continue taking a few long, deep breaths in and deep exhalations. Breathe in again and breathe out. Become aware of your thoughts, if there are any. Positive or negative thoughts. Let them be. You are at ease with your thoughts this very moment. Just breathe in again and let go. Become aware of your emotions and feelings, if there are any. Let them be. You are at ease with your emotions this very moment. Another deep breath in and let go. You are peace. You are joy. You are love. Breathe in again and let go. One more deep breath in and breathe out. Become aware of your emotions and thoughts. Become aware of your body and surroundings. Breathe in again and let go. And slowly and gently, taking your own time, you may slowly and gently open your eyes. Just take a moment to observe the state of your own mind. And become aware that you're more present now than you were a few moments ago. Good. So I'd like to ask Fari, what is it about the breath that has this remarkable transformational ability? What is it that brings us back to the present moment this way? Fari?
Thanks, Ajay, for that wonderful exercise. Maybe it shows in my voice. I'm so relaxed now. So for me personally, I've been doing yogic breathing and meditative practice for most of my life, and it has made a big impact in my life. And it has become an integral part of my daily routine. I feel that it is due to these practices directly that I feel healthier, more relaxed, more energetic, and it has improved my communication skills. I can even say that it made me a better scientist. As you mentioned, Ajay, I'm a molecular and cell biologist, and it means that I like to understand how things work at the very fundamental level of biology. So an experiment we did several years ago, looking at the potential effects of breathing exercises at the molecular level, made me even a more steadfast believer in the power of breath. If it's okay, I would like to share a couple of slides to demonstrate that.
Of course, please.
So in the cell of trillions of cells, in each cell in our body, there is DNA, and this is the blueprint of our physiology. There's the knowledge in DNA in packets of information called genes, and the genes are, the information in the genes are transferred through a molecule called RNA to proteins, which are the building blocks of our whole system. This process is called gene expression. So based on the physiological and psychological effects that I briefly mentioned that were found in previous studies, we suggested that maybe we can detect effects at this molecular level of these breathing exercises. So I just want to remind you that if you take cells from the same person, they have the same DNA, but they look very different and they function very differently. Nerve cells, liver cells, heart muscle cells, lymphocytes. The reason for this is that they have different patterns of gene expression. So what we did was we took this SKY program that I mentioned, where participants practice some gentle stretching and breathing program, a series of breathing exercises, and then they rest. So this takes about 2 hours. It's not done every day. For this study, we did it in this way. The same subjects, at the same time of the day, instead of doing this program, they went to a nature walk and came back, listened to relaxing music as control. So we repeated this, both of them, twice. And before they did these regimens, we took blood from the subjects and then isolated the immune cells in the blood. And then we are able to determine the whole of gene expression program at one go in these cells. So we compared the SKY program with the control regimen of going for a nature walk, listening to classical music or relaxing music. So what we found was that, I will not describe this color-coded image. This is basically, you have in each column different subjects and on each row different genes. Compared to the SKY breathing, the control regimen gave rise to much less change. About SKY program was 4-fold more effective in generating changes at the molecular level. And we know exactly what these are and their interactions, how they may work in the cell, but functional studies need to be performed. But what these findings show is that the breathing exercises, they go all the way to the molecular level. They affect our immune cells at the level of their DNA to RNA to protein. Of course, further studies need to be conducted, and we are doing that in different settings, including in cancer patients. So I think this gives us a perspective that these exercises, they seem so simple, they may make us feel relaxed just as we experience now, but it's not something only in the mind, but they go to the very basis of our physiology. Back to you, Ajay.
Thanks, Fari. And Fari, can you give us a sense of how long some of these participants had to do these programs to experience these molecular changes, or were they almost instantaneous?
The group that we tested, they had various levels of experience from before, from only a couple of months to a few years, and all of them had similar changes. I believe that we haven't done this experiment yet, but it's very fast. So what was very significant, it was the first time it was shown, was that we can immediately observe these effects within 2 hours.
Thank you, Fari. Thank you for that. It's fascinating, really, that the breath can have such a profound impact at our very basic genetic level as well. Joe, over to you now. Could you share some personal anecdotes with us in terms of how you have personally benefited, perhaps, from some of this breathing and awareness in the realm of politics?
Many thanks to Fari. I have now an idea how it looks inside when I do the sky breathing actually every day. We have the Ujjayi breathing through the throat, the bellows as we have done to mobilize, and then the sky is another form of breathing. And somehow I'm a fan of sky breathing since some years, and it is amazing. I have a very low blood pressure, so coming up in the morning before was always a little bit tiring, and I didn't feel well. So doing the sky, I'm clear, I'm fresh, I'm motivated for the day. It is amazing how that changes. And even if you do it 15 minutes, it's not much more. What I observe with my body, and Fari just showed us the DNA, the RNA, and the protein, I lost weight. And I stabilized my weight. Whatever I eat and drink, I can eat as much as I want. With the sky breathing, the body has balanced itself to a certain weight where I feel well. So anybody who listens to us and shows looks to this session, do it. It is so beneficial for many parts of well-being. Mentally as well as, of course, by body health.
And Joe, have you found that it impacted your decision making? Did you find that it made a difference to you as you interacted with colleagues? Were you able to think of different ideas, or were you more open? Any of those? Any little insights you can share?
Yeah, of course. I mean, you are not, let's say, tired and unmotivated. The breathing really opens up your mind, and you are ready for new adventures, for new activities. And good, hopefully for always good activities, but it mobilizes you to do something and not to hang around and say, oh, it's raining outside. I have no really interest to do something. The simple breathing, which costs nothing, is so easy, can change your look on the day, on the moment even. And I must say that I benefited a lot from it. It kept me healthy. Yeah, I will not tell you how old I am, but it kept me healthy and it kept me active. And that's can continue another decades. Then I'm satisfied with God.
Thank you
And
for sharing, Jill. Uh, Gurudev often says that you are only as young as much as enthusiasm you have, and you're clearly very young. You have a lot of enthusiasm and zest for life. So wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Vishal, how about you? How have you seen this specifically impact you in the space of your own? I mean, you're very successful business professional. How has this impacted you personally?
Sure, Ajay. So, so I'll probably say more in from the perspective of Accenture and the business. Of course, I have personally been a practitioner for a while, and I think for me, the personal benefits are very similar to what you was describing. I just feel, let's say, so much more energetic, so much more in the present moment. But more importantly, I also feel it improves my intuition. So because a lot of business decision making, you never have all the data, so you do have to make a few bets, and you have to kind of make decisions through ambiguity. And there, of course, I cannot prove it, and maybe Fari can do an experiment on this at some point. But it does improve, and I feel it does improve my ability to make the right decisions in that ambiguity and through stressful sort of situations, right? So that's been a big personal benefit for me. But the second aspect of it has been, so last year as the pandemic hit, one of the initiatives I took was to invite a number of my colleagues to join this movement, if I may, and really benefit from these tools. And we did this middle of last year when the pandemic was in full flow, particularly in Europe. And my goal at the time was to invite about 100 people. And to my surprise, we had about 400 people from all over Europe, all of my colleagues, from different parts of Europe coming in. We had 3 workshops, which was really about breathing and really talking about how you can use these tools to de-stress. And it was quite overwhelming, the kind of feedback that I received from the participants, many of them doing it for the first time. And they really were talking about how it is making them feel peaceful, calm, less anxious, more in the present moment. So a lot of very, very positive feedback, and which was, I must say, personally overwhelming to have kind of got that type of positive feedback. And a lot of people amongst that also continued the practice. Now, some, of course, dropped out along the way. So later part of last year, we did one more workshop, which again was attended by a lot of people, and again, very positive feedback. And very recently, this is about a month ago, because the lockdown in Europe is still on, as you know, and it just doesn't seem to be getting over. So just about a month ago, we did another workshop. We called it Resilience this time. And the idea was that how do you kind of build mental, physical, social, and purpose-based resilience in people. And there again, this was held or this was done by our colleagues at TLEX, one of the partner organizations of this forum. And they held it, and it was again primarily around the power of breath. We used a lot of breathing techniques, but then we also went a bit beyond that, looking at how can you be doing some acts of kindness, how can you obviously use a lot of yoga, how can you kind of build a bit of a purpose around that. So so you kind of we looked at a bit more broader sense, from a resilience standpoint. And yet I thought breath was the central aspect of that. So we did all of this, the bellows breath, several different breathing techniques. And again, the feedback, and this was my leadership team, about 120 people. Again, the feedback was very, very positive, and people think this is a great intervention that Accenture is doing. And you sense that they feel more belonged to the company, that you get a much better sense of teamwork between people, because you are really going beyond day-to-day business, and you are really taking care of each other. And that creates a very positive vibe in the team, really, right? So that's the other thing I found, how good this is from a team bonding standpoint. So if some of you may have experienced doing this alone and doing it with a team, right? And there is a difference, right? And doing it with a team brings you closer together. And that's what I saw in all of these workshops, that people become much better from a bonding and from a team spirit standpoint as well. And that means that as you look at the big challenges ahead of us, you find much more cohesion and collaboration in the team. So with that, I will hand it over back to you, Ajay.
Thanks, Vishal. That's really fascinating. And I think it's very interesting, because I think 5 years ago, or even 10 years ago, people might have been more resistant to try something like this, meditation and breathing. But I think now there's a greater degree of openness and a willingness to try something different, so that we can see different results, right?
Right.
I think Albert Einstein once famously said, if you want to see different results, you do different things, not the same thing again and again.
Yeah.
So we have a few questions from our audience, and I just wanted to pose these to you. I'm also mindful we have about 7 minutes left to go in our session, and I do want to come back to each of you to think, to ask you to think of the way forward. But this question, you've already answered some of the other questions that I've seen in the chat. This is one question for Fari. Are there any groups studying molecular effects of breathing using concepts of individuality and exposomics? I'm sorry if I said the second word wrong, but Fari?
To my knowledge, no. The second word, could it be proteomics?
I think this is a question from Dr. Jeff Feynman. And Dr. Feynman, is it proteomics or is it exposomics?
But to my knowledge, in any case, it's the studies so far have been done on the field of transcriptomics, the study that I showed you, because RNA is also referred to as a transcript, mRNA transcript. So it's at the level of transcriptomics. We need to do at the level of proteomics, looking at the protein changes in proteins, also lipidomics, changes in the lipids, and other aspects like that.
Thank you for that, Fari. And for those of us who have joined, please know that you can reach out to us, and we will see how best we can get you connected with our experts as well, if you have any further questions for them. At this point, I want to see if we can have this section around the crystal gaze, looking into the crystal ball. What's your prediction about the trends for the next 5 years? How do you see the power of breath playing a role in improving the state of our society? And what would your advice be for aspiring leaders in your fields? So, Joe, I'd like you to get us started on this. And do you believe that we can change the world by giving the power of breath to our political leaders?
Yeah, Ajay, you mentioned before that a few years ago, there was a lot of skepticism about these old techniques. It was called esoteric, so something strange like a sect. And little by little, you discover that all over the world, meditation, yoga, breathing get familiar to more and more people. And to my astonishment, even here where I'm living in the schools, they have yoga. It had never existed before. When I was in school, it was simply unknown what yoga is. And so I think there is an awareness growing that we are all the same, whether we are rich or poor, tall or small, white or colored. We function basically as human beings in the same way. And if that could be coming to the awareness that we are all the same, we really could build a better world, because we basically don't differ so much. It is more politics or power or fanatism that separates us. And breathing is the first thing, more or less, what you do when you come to this life. And therefore, getting breathing more and more familiar would, in my opinion, help to solve a lot of constraints, a lot of stress and problems and probably, hopefully, to form a world community, a one world and a better world.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you for that. Fari, what are your thoughts?
So I certainly think that the breath offers incredible avenues. And from a scientific perspective, there are two areas that I think are very exciting. And one is our ability to understand the mechanisms of how our breath is linked to different aspects of our mind-body system, as we've been discussing, so that we can harness this information to evaluate health and wellness. And the second is to explore the possibility that we can use breathing exercises to improve health and wellness with societal impact. So for the first one, we were talking about transcriptomics, lipidomics, etc. There is a field now, very young, which is called breathomics. So I mentioned that there are more than 3,000 substances that we can measure in our breath. We do not know what these are indicators of, but for some of them we do. We started to learn. For example, there's a disease which was very difficult to find out and treat before. It's called small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO, where in the small intestine, bacteria grows, and then they give gases that we can measure in our breath. And then we can catch this early on, and then so that it doesn't cause potentially serious disease such as diarrhea, weight loss, malnutrition, and so forth. So I think this is one big area, the breathomics, that we will be able to harness this to, just like you give blood, and then in the blood, certain parameters are looked at, and then something about your health and wellness is known. It will be like that, but we will take a biopsy of your breath. For the second area, I think there are really big opportunities to apply this knowledge. For example, we did a study, not a formal study, but we have evaluated health professionals, about 1,700 of them, who participated in a program over 3 days, 1.5 hours each day, learning these breathing exercises in Turkey and in Portugal as part of a Europe-wide program. As you know, our real heroes are the health professionals working with COVID, intense physical and mental pressure. And then we gave them a survey after the program. In the surveys, 100% said that they have benefited from this program. 100% would recommend it to their peers. 94% felt that it decreased their stress levels. 90% felt that it improved their interactions with people. And maybe most remarkably, 79% felt that it improved their job performance at the hospital and clinic. I think this is really noteworthy that in such a short time, such practical, easy to learn exercises can have such a big impact. And I think we just need to bring it in different fields, in the business, in education, in health system. At the same time, conduct research at different levels, which I am most keen about. But I think that it is an extremely fertile and very much needed area.
Thank you very much for that very fascinating prediction, Fari. I'm sure that I'd be so fascinated just by somebody just taking a whiff of my breath and telling me all of this information. Really fascinating. And the program that I believe that you're talking about is offered through the Art of Living Foundation, as well as variants through the Transformation Leadership for Excellence Institute, the TLEX Institute that Vishal also referred to. Vishal, I know we're a little over time. I wanted to get back to you. How do you see us emerging stronger from this whole trial of fire that the whole world has been going through over the last 14, 15 months?
Right. So Ajay, I'll build a bit on what Fari was saying. So in the world of business, I mean, I see, that while I think a lot of companies, including Accenture, there is a lot of discussion around how do you kind of leverage the power of breath, for a number of benefits. But I still believe it's at a very early stage. So there is a lot more to be done. I mean, my personal dream is that companies like mine, where we spend hundreds of millions in training, in learning, and all of those activities, this should be a core element of that, right? I mean, today it's happening, not at that level of scale, right? I mean, in my company, we have 500,000 people, for example. Now, how many of those people have really benefited from this? I would still say it's at a pretty early stage, and so is the case with most other companies, right? So firstly, I see a huge opportunity to bring this into the business world for the benefit of the business, which is really about, better employee engagement, creating much better team spirit, better decision making. Also, if you look at some of the change that I expect going forward, clearly in the post pandemic world, one thing which will definitely happen is the velocity of change will only go up, right? I mean, the technology area, now there we are saying artificial intelligence, for example, is one area where the next decade is going to belong to artificial intelligence. The other area we talk about often is sustainability, right? And how does technology impact sustainability? If you have to work in any of these, I think it's super important to be mindful and have sort of people or leaders who are mindful, because what you really need is a sense of centeredness, a sense of connectedness, a sense of giving when you work in these areas. And that again, all of these things need something very fundamental for you to be able to really deliver the right results. And breath again is a very, very important element of making it happen. So to just summarize, Ajay, I think there is a lot to be done. The early signs are very promising in the world of business, and there is a lot to be done with the help of all of you, I think, here on the call, to kind of really bring this center stage in business, so that employees largely and our customers, can really benefit, from leveraging the power of breath and everything that it brings along with it. With that, back to you, Ajay.
Thank you so much, Vishal. And Joe and Fari, I think from a high level understanding of our impact, we've also seen how the breath truly can impact us on such a personal, individual level. And we've heard from leaders in the fields of politics, business, and science. Please join me in expressing a big thanks to our panelists, also to our participants and viewers, and all those who made this session and conference possible, all the volunteers, the technical teams. A big thank you. We've all heard of the expression, take a breath. We all know now how much powerful that simple act of breathing can be. So shall we take 3 deep breaths as we conclude today's session? Yeah. Let's relax our shoulders one more time. And let's relax our neck. Let's take a deep breath in. And let go. Another deep breath in. And breathe out. One more deep breath in. And let go. We're all certain that you found this to be an interesting and engaging conversation. On behalf of the panelists, on behalf of WFEB, we wish you all good health and happiness for the years to come. Stay in touch, follow us on social media, and we will see you all in the main session in just a little bit. Thank you very much.